Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out Confession. Story 1. In WoW I take crafting orders and screw them up on purpose. In World of Warcraft, my main is a jewel crafter. I will sometimes take public orders that are either offering a very low tip amount, or didn't supply the materials, and the tip amount is enough to cover the craft, and then remove all of my crafting gear and use the lowest rank items I can, and will use a polishing cloth, which further decreases my skill in the profession, to crank out the lowest rank crafted item possible. Why? Because in some way I get to feel like I'm getting to screw someone the way life seems to screw me every day. Story 2. I set a girl up because I stole from the register when I was a kid. So when I was about 17 I worked in the mall restaurant. I didn't use drugs, but I became work friends with a coke fiend that worked there. We both didn't like this other girl. She was just a brat. The coke fiend needed extra money, well, for more coke, and I just wanted more money. So when one of us was working with the brat, the one that was off would go up to work and get money from the one that was working. We would split it. This went on for quite some time. I couldn't believe how long it went on for. Sometimes we'd get as much as $75 and split it. We would do it like 3 or 4 days in a row. It lasted about a month. Finally the manager came into our booth and he was mad. Me and the coke fiend were working. He asked if we can rearrange our shifts. He had to fire the brat. I thought for sure when he came in there he knew it was us. I felt bad. I should have gotten fired. I was just a kid and got caught up in something I had no business doing. Who knows, that job could have been really important to that other girl. The coke fiend was older than me and she kind of took advantage of me. Now that I'm older and wiser, I would never have done that. Story 3. When I was a kid I used to sneak into the school library at lunchtime to steal books. My parents never got us anything. I thought we were poor, but turns out my dad preferred to send his money back home to his brothers rather than his family of 7. I knew stealing was bad and I was terrified of getting caught, but there was no way my parents would buy us books. We didn't even have toys, so I stole them when I could. I loved to read. I'm pretty sure I either gave them back eventually or sent them to a charity shop. Story 4. I bullied 2 kids when I was in elementary school. Just as the title says, back when I was just in elementary school I bullied 2 people. It started out in 2nd grade when I was friends with this one boy. We hung out all the time and had a lot in common, and I still have positive memories associated with our friendship. Then one day a flip switched in my brain. I have absolutely no explanation for it, I just didn't like him the same anymore. This was about 15 years ago, so my memory is not strong, but I remember from then on I just avoided him and was mean to him anytime he tried to talk to me. During this time of me avoiding him, our parents scheduled a play date for us at his house. I think I tried to get out of going, but went, and he was so mad/sad and just tried to tell me how he felt, but we fought and then his mom got involved. I remember him crying and his mom asking me why we were fighting, and I think I just said something along the lines of, I don't like him anymore. Or I don't want to be friends anymore. And she looked so disappointed and sad. I will never be able to forget that day, and I'm sorry, Michael, that I treated you so poorly and destroyed our friendship. He didn't come back the next year. I caused him to change schools. The next year I just got worse. Again I had a friendship with this other boy. This time we had usually a group of 3 or more and we always played together. I think maybe this time I was jealous of the attention this boy was getting from our other friends. I don't remember exactly how I felt, I just know I started being really mean to him and tried turning our friends against him. I would yell in his face whenever he came up to me, and for some reason, despite how I bullied him, we had an on and off again friendship. This lasted from about 3rd to 5th grade, and then I moved many states away. I kept in contact with one kid from my elementary school, and when I was talking him a few years after it all, he told me that the boy I bullied threatened to shoot me if he ever saw me again. I don't blame him for feeling that way. I made him miserable for 3 years. We were just kids, but I treated him like dirt. I'm sorry, Emmanuel, you didn't deserve to be treated that way at all. You did nothing wrong. I know I don't deserve their forgiveness. I wish so badly that my actions in the past weren't hurtful towards people. No amount of regret and guilt will undo the damage I caused. I just hope that they've moved on and don't look back on their elementary school years and only think of horrible memories because of me. I'm sorry. Story 5. My friends and I stole drinks from Starbucks in middle school. So for 2 years straight me, 13, and my friends, 14 to 15F, used to go to the Starbucks that was like around the corner from our middle school, and we used to sit at a table in front of the counter where drinks were waiting to get picked up, and wait like 5 to 10 minutes, and whatever drink was still there in like 10 to 20 minutes we would just take it and then walk out of the Starbucks and then go to school, and I never got caught and I only stopped because I moved. Edit. I should have gave more details on how we did this, but I was too high. We'd go inside and sit at a table, then look to see what coffee was there already, then wait 10 to 20 minutes and take it. The coffee we took was not freshly made. If we took iced coffee, the ice would be melted. That's how long we waited. It's Starbucks policy to remake drinks if the customer didn't get theirs. And the employees knew what we was doing, but they couldn't say anything to the kids that was stealing because it's against the policy. Stop arguing in my... Story 6. I was camping with my friends and I burned a slug alive. I was camping with my friends and got a slug on a stick. I said, should I burn him, and I put him into the fire. My friend then said, don't do that, it's evil, and I instantly felt bad. At first it was more of an intrusive thought, but also I suppose I took out some anger too. I felt wrath when I was burning the slug and it felt like good stress relief, until my friend said that, and then I felt guilty instead. I'm pretty sure the slug survived as I took him away from the fire and he was still moving, but he could have died from his injuries. I still feel really bad, to be honest, and I don't want my friends to see me as a monster, and I feel so bad for what I did to the slug. I'm sorry, slug. I'm sorry, friends. I wish I had never done it. Story 7. I stole a decent amount of money from my mother when I was a kid. For context, we were going through a not-so-smooth patch of life at the time. I didn't get much money as a kid because of my parents' divorce. My father took the majority of my family's money and spent it gambling away. He then divorced my mother for the second time. Yes, my mother remarried the same man twice. Both times, she was divorced by him. We were living at a new house in my city after the divorce, as my old house and been split in the divorce and both agreed to sell it. So, we had just moved into this new house. My sister, who's my twin and partner in crime, was sitting with me one day. It was summer break and honestly, we had nothing to do. My sister had wanted to go out shopping, but didn't have the money to do so. So, for some reason, she suggested that we steal from my mother so we could go shopping. My mother kept a decent amount of cash in her purse at all times, for emergencies, etc. So, here was me and my sister devising a plan to rob our own mother. The clock hits 12. She reels down from the ceiling over my mother's bed. She grabs the purse, searching through it quickly. She grabs about $100 and reels back up. Mission complete. Is how I imagined it would go. Realistically, it was 10 p.m., an hour after a bedtime. Wow. We crawled into her room. Her purse was on the floor. We reached in, grabbed some money, and crawled straight out. Mission complete, just in a less cool way. The next day, we went into the city, spent the money we had stole, and had a fun-ass day. For some reason, we did this about 6 other times before the fatal day. It was 8 a.m. in the morning on a Saturday. This would be our 7th heist. We were naturals at this point, almost gods. But for some reason, we decided it would be a smart idea to steal from her in the morning, and right exactly when she would wake up. We were at her purse, my sister's hand was in the purse, we were almost done. But oh no, the alarm just had to ring right at that time. My mother drowsily woke up as my sister and I just sat there, frozen. She looked at us, she looked at the hand in her purse, she thought about all the new shit we were buying, and all the money she was missing, and finally concluded. We were stealing from her. Immediately, we were fucked. Screaming started and holy shit, it was bad. My mother dragged us both to her car and drove to a juvie center. We were convinced that we were going to jail that day. I somehow convinced her that it was all my sister that stole and that I just sat and watched. I got out of it, but as my mother sat in the parking lot of the juvie center, she finally calmed down. Holy shit, I thought I was going to be charged that day. But anyways, she drove us home, and we were grounded for ages. Not only that, but the amount of chores we had to do for months, alone, with no help, was insane. Needless to say, I won't be stealing again, ever again. TLDR, I stole about $800 or so from my mother over the time span of 3 weeks, had the time of my life, then got caught, almost went to juvie as a kid, and was grounded for months. Story 8. Lied to a true old friend about wrong exams result. It gets that big a deal, but it sucks to lie to an old friend. Story 9. I lied that I used homemade custard in the trifle as my mum is too posh. I don't feel bad at all. So the first Christmas I made the trifle, my mum insisted you had to use homemade custard. So I did and added yellow food coloring to make it look similar to store-bought. The next year I couldn't be arsed and used bought custard. Mum asked if I used homemade custard, so I said I didn't. The look on her face looked like she might cry, like Christmas was ruined, and I somehow turned it into a joke and she thought I was tricking to wind her up and found it funny. She never knew and couldn't taste the difference, but it was a big risk and I'll just make homemade next year, way too close a call. Story 10. I broke my brother's car mirrors after we got into an argument. I, 17F, got into a big argument with my brother, 25M, because he wasn't letting me have a sleepover at my friend's house. I know he was looking out for me, but it was still frustrating because I know I would be safe at the house and wouldn't go outside with my friends where it may be dangerous. Because he wasn't letting me, I may have got a bit too agitated and started screaming at his face for being too overbearing. But basically, that was his tipping point and he pushed me really hard to the ground and started being really rough with me because he was fed up with it. That's when I just gave up on trying to convince him, because I knew it was no point and I was getting scared. I couldn't do anything but cry that night, but my anger still wasn't gone. That's why, a few days later, I decided to break his sidecar mirrors to get back at him. I took some silver tool, what it's called, and smashed his side mirrors. And I tried bending the mirror down. I hate to admit it, but it felt so good in the moment because I was still pissed. In the end, he found out the next morning and called the local township about it. He was really mad because he just got the car like last year. Even then, I didn't regret it because the night he didn't let me go to the sleepover was still fresh in my mind. Plus how rough he got towards me really ticked me off. A month later, I can't help but feel guilty for being the one to break his side mirrors. He still hasn't found out. He really does care for me, even if he's a bit too overprotective. And I understand where he's coming from, because I did have a few interactions with creeps when I've been alone. We only have each other since our parents are not in our lives anymore, so I get he's looking out for me. It didn't really affect him financially because he is well off, thankfully. I just don't know if I should confess to him what I did, because I know he'll be angry. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.